The Batteries Included podcast is brought to you with United Chargers. United Chargers presents the Grizzly range of EV chargers. There's the original Grizzly Classic, a powerful, heavy-duty, portable EV charging station built to withstand the toughest conditions. The Grizzly Duo, a dual-port unit designed to charge two vehicles at the same time. The Grizzly Mini, a small portable charging station built with an indoor-outdoor rated cast aluminium enclosure. And the Grizzly Smart, a revolutionary smart EV charger. All Grizzly chargers come with a convenient 24-foot cable and the ability to adjust the current from 16 amps all the way up to 40 amps. That's 9.6 kilowatts. Plus, they're IP67 rated. Built in Canada with the highest quality materials. Order yours now at unitedchargers.com. That's unitedchargers.com.
Hello, welcome to the Batteries Included podcast. It's February the 23rd, 2024, and this is episode number 25. Thank you very much for joining us. On today's show, we'll be talking about Kyle driving the Honda Prologue for the first time, GM is reportedly killing a small pickup truck in favor of a large plug-in hybrid electric truck, and the launch of the Volkswagen ID 7 Tour in Europe, and of course, much, much more. I'm Dominic Yoni. Joining us today is the effervescent Mr. Tom Malogney, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. We also have the meditative Mr. Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast, which is available on all the best podcast platforms. And of course, Kyle Connor joins us from the majestic, practically palatial halls of Out of Spec Studios, where he produces high voltage videos for a number of YouTube channels. Hey there, everybody. Good to see you all.
Good morning. No, good afternoon.
Morning, all.
All right. So we don't have a recorded version of the EV News Daily weekly recording roundup. How do I even say that? I don't know.
Normally I like to spend the morning, because I'm later than you guys, working on it, adding screenshots, doing some screen grabs, talking about it as I go. But it takes a couple of hours or so, and I've been so snowed today. But I know what's been happening this week, so I can still do some news if you want me to, but it'll just be live. It might just be a bit more frisky than usual, because who knows what will happen. I can do you some news if you'd like.
Are you ready?
Should we do? I got the jingle ready.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, here we go. First job, make me big. I'm big, right? This week, SAE International officially adopted new standards to enable Level 1, Level 2 EV chargers to have vehicle-to-grid. It's called SAE J3068, and it provides utility companies with standardized data to receive power from EVs. The Ford Pro CFO, Navin Kumar, said that certain segments of commercial customers actually want EVs at a much greater rate than gas-powered counterparts. He noted that Ford Pro is selling a higher mix of things like the e-Transit to state and local governments, as well as small businesses compared to combustion. Talking to Ford, they lowered prices and offered cash incentives for the F-150 Lightning and Mustang Mach-E in North America. Mustang Mach-E went down by between $8,000 and $13,000 in Canada as well. Starting price in the US for the Select rear-wheel drive now $39,895, and the Select all-wheel drive starts at $42,895. As for the F-150 Lightning, there's $7,500 off the XLT extended range and $5,000 off the Lariat standard and extended range and $12,000 off the Platinum versions. Mercedes-Benz revised their expectations for EV demand, saying they'll update their combustion engine lineup into the decade, which they weren't going to do. It was going to be 100% EV sales in Europe by 2030, and they're walking that back slightly, reacting to the shifting supply and demand out there. Lucid Motors reported a wider net loss of $650 million in Q4 and said their production will be 9,000 vehicles this year, blaming high interest rates and the macro situation. The company delivered 1,700 Airs last quarter and will launch their Gravity, the crossover, later this year. Net loss for last year, $2.8 billion. That's a bad day at the office. Well, Tesla added 3 new color wraps for the Cybertruck, including Satin Abyss Blue, fancy, which you can get in the Tesla app for $6,500 in one of 4 locations in California. Lotus will be publicly listed on the NASDAQ for $5.5 billion. They raised $880 million from early investors in anticipation of the listing. Over in Germany, and local voters in the Grünheide municipality voted against Tesla's plans to expand the Gigafactory to clear 250 acres of forest and increase the site by 50%. The vote's not binding, but local officials said they would respect the results. Tesla will come back with new plans. Rivian announced plans to cut 10% of their salaried workforce. It's the third time I think they've done a workforce trimming. That's a horrible word, isn't it, for people losing their jobs? But either way, they've set production guidance below expectations as well. They said they'll build 57,000 vehicles this year, down from 80,000 as previously advised. Good news for the Cadillac Lyriq, now available with the $7,500 federal tax credit after making changes to the sourcing of minor components, battery separators and electrolytes and things, bringing the Lyriq inside the tax credit eligibility. Price cap to qualify as 80 grand. That covers most of the configurations of the Lyriq, doesn't it? In Italy, in the Mia Fiori plant in Turin, they just began production this week of the all-electric Fiat 500e for the North American market. Already sold out the first batch of those, about 150 miles of range, and an MSRP of $32,500. And the Dacia Spring, Europe's cheapest electric car, is coming to the UK. The original version didn't, but there's a new version that actually looks really good and very, very competent. Great connectivity, great dashboard, all improved and restyled. Advanced driver assistance. It starts at £17,000, and it comes with a 10-inch touchscreen and the higher-end models, and of course, smartphone kind of tethering for the lower grade models to replace any of that expensive in-car stuff. That is the news I think we'll stick to today. Where's the little jingle thing? This is going to be seamless. Go! No! Go! Didn't see a thing. It was perfect.
that was
awesome.
Incredible.
We'll fix that. We'll fix it in the edit.
Now you
It's
can
fine.
breathe now.
when this goes out, we'll fix that. We'll edit that. It's fine. This isn't live, is it? Oh, crap.
That was a recording, wasn't it? That wasn't
That
a
was
recording?
very impressive.
Woo!
Wow.
Well, I'm sure I missed
Wow.
something, but there you go.
Wow. That's
Nice
amazing.
work.
Well, thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that. That was awesome.
Mighty Unlikely says hooray. Something my wife has never said, unfortunately. Right, let's crack on.
We'll just leave that. Hey, Kyle. So I hear you you drove the Honda Prologue a few weeks ago, and now you can finally talk about it. You posted a video yesterday of your time with it, and of course we encourage everyone to go and check that full video up because there's a ton of info in there. It's like over an hour and 15 minutes long, I think. And it's just chock full of detail, and you see every little bit of the car. But yeah, before you give us your thoughts, I thought we'd just remind the audience of the specs of this thing. So it's built on the Ultium platform and will be manufactured alongside the Chevy Equinox EV in Mexico. The single motor version is front-wheel drive and puts out 121 horsepower, has a 296 mile range. The dual motor all-wheel drive version offers 288 horsepower and has a 281 mile range, they say, except for the Elite trim, which is all-wheel drive, of course, but it only has a 273 mile range, taking a little bit of a hit there. The battery is 85 kilowatt hours. DC charge time is given as 20 to 80% in 35 minutes, which is, of course, not class leading, but I don't know if that's where it's actually in the whole spectrum of the charging speeds. I don't think it's not really great, really, for a new product, but that's fine. Kyle, why don't you tell us what you think of the new Honda Prologue?
Well, I think you summed it up right there at the end. And I'll use your words. It's not really great, but that's fine. And so that's pretty much the whole card from my perspective. I have to say, by the way, we produced a full out of spec reviews video that's an hour and something long, which is, actually doing pretty well. I think it's the second or third highest viewed Prologue video out there. And it's like 5 times as long as everyone else. So everyone's saying you don't watch long videos. I got the data saying you do. And there's 50 other ones that have like 1,000 views on them. I don't know. I also wanted to say a big thank you to Nebula, who's here in the chat, who helped me a ton with that review, because I went into the Prologue doing zero research. And we all know Nebula is our resident GM expert. And I really want to get him on the podcast at some point, just to pick his brain about everything GM and electrification, but really helped me a lot to get some info. I meant to put it in the video. I just never made it in there. So sorry for not giving you the credit that really he should be reviewing the car, not me. But I mean, I just needed some quick things on like battery pack voltages, usable versus gross capacities, and he had all that information readily available, and that was wonderful. The car itself is of course, Chevy Blazer sister. It's, we could argue it's badge engineering, and it's kind of interesting. I've never, at least in recent memory, we've never really seen a car like this. Within the General Motors group, it's expected that you will have a Blazer, a Lyriq, a Silverado EV, a Sierra EV. That's probably the best example because they'll be built on the same platform. But this is a Honda that's treated like one of those internal rebrandings. And I think the vehicle looks great. I think it is the right size. It's really nice and roomy and comfy and soft and a great seemingly highway cruiser. It's relatively quiet. It's got just enough power. And so, it's the Prologue is pretty much a nice car, but is it a nice Honda? The answer is it's not a Honda. It is a General Motors product. And is that good? Is that bad? For some people, we've seen it in the comment section. We had one guy said he will absolutely now buy this car and consider it because it's a GM. It's the first Honda he would consider. And then there's another one comment right after that says, I would never consider this. I'm a Honda guy and this is crap. And I'm like, I don't, you can't please everyone with one car. But all I'll say is it's one of those cars that I think they're expecting to produce 40,000 in the first year. We'll see if that happens. The software bugs of Blazer, this one, the Honda team was like overly confident they wouldn't have that issue. But I would say I didn't see any issues with the Prologue at all during our drives and everything. And in the other topic is in maybe 5 years from now, 8 years from now, we're going to look back and go, remember that weird Honda GM partnership car?
Yeah.
And it would be like the weird car remember list. And I kind of like it for that. It's kind of quirky. It's kind of weird. And yeah, it's a nice car though. Really, really nice car, but nothing exciting. No lane centering. So that was the good stuff. Here's the bad. The bad is it's a brand new car. The Elite version that we drove was $58,000 or something. So it's $7,000 more than a Model Y performance. The top one, and it doesn't even have lane centering.
Right. It has what do you call it? Not lane centering. It does have a
active lane
thing.
Keeping, which means when you hit the line, it pushes you back in. But that's not
I hate that
useful.
Thing. I always like to turn that off. It's really annoying.
Yeah, turn that off, but leave centering on for the highway so it can just do that. I don't know. I don't know how they could launch a huge miss and insane miss. I mean that just writes the car off any recommendation list for me because it's a car. It needs to do what cars do in 2024. And that's one of the things cars do in 2024. And it just doesn't do that. So the ZDX, the Acura version, which is the longer wheelbase built on the Lyriq platform, that will have Super Cruise as an option.
Do you think is lane centering something that they can bring in after as an over-the-air update? Possibly is all the hardware in place to do that kind of thing? I don't
know. The Honda engineers did not want to talk to me about that particular topic. I was like, they were like, yeah, no, it does that. And I'm like, but when someone reads on the spec sheet, active lane keeping, they're going to think that it stays in the middle of the lane like every other car does. And they're like, no, that just means when you hit the line, it pushes you back in a little bit.
A little bit. Doesn't even, I watched your video last night, and it didn't even do a great job of that, right? You hit that sound, thing on the side of the.
Well, there was a turn coming up, so I decided to just go straight to show the viewers what would happen, and to wake the Honda people up as to how important it is to have lane centering. So I just drove off the road a little bit and then came back on just to prove a point. So that was annoying. The other thing that I thought was kind of interesting was that they used the 85 kilowatt hour pack, which is the small Blazer pack. The Blazer can go up to 105 kilowatt hours, I think. So you can get a real big pack in that one. This is using the small one, but it also has pretty good range, 296 mile EPA in the standard car, which the standard car, the front wheel drive, no option version is the same price as a Model Y long range.
Right.
And that's comes with everything you need. So I hate to compare it to Tesla because it's like, okay, Tesla really slashed their prices. They're buying market share by lowering prices, all these things. But that is the competition.
So you had a whole section near the end talking about how it compares with the Model Y, but I was thinking, how does it compare with a few other things in that segment, like the Hyundai Ioniq 5, for instance?
Yeah,
Is
I
it
mean,
smaller than that car? Is it like a
they're
different class?
this is maybe a little bit wider, a little bit taller. I don't know the exact dimensions. They
Okay.
definitely are, someone would be cross-shopping them. But think about this for a second. The Ioniq 5 can charge at 240 kilowatts at a DC
Right.
charger. This
Right.
can charge at 155, very peak small time, and then it kind of sits at 120-ish, is my understanding. So it has
Right.
twice the charging speeds in the Ioniq.
Mhm.
Now, what Honda is pitching this car as is for an existing Honda buyer wanting to go electric. This is what they told us. And they're
Right.
like, this is someone who drives a normal CRV. Then they drive a CRV hybrid and they go, wow, look at what electrification can do. And I would say if I drove a CRV hybrid, look at how crappy electrification is, because it only gets me 3 feet down the road. And then the gas engine needs to come on to help with the acceleration. Electrification sucks. That's just my viewpoint. And then they're like, oh, they're going to love their CRV hybrid so much, they're going to switch into the Prologue. And what I think is going to happen is very few people are going to do that. I think this is going to bring a lot of new buyers to the Honda brand. And I think they're going to love the car. If you're buying this for a commute, if you're buying this for, just doing the school run or something like that, there's a lot of room. There's a lot of quality. It feels nice. It drives soft and floaty and comfortable. And it's a Honda, so that does bring some confidence to some people's buying decisions. The thing is, they just have to have a good lease on it because it's expensive.
Right. Yeah.
And then someone
Price-wise,
says, I don't know Honda buyers at all, but I literally put 2 different Honda buyers in the videos to ask them about it. And both of them loved it. So they really thought it was great.
Right. I don't know. It sounds like a lot of wishful thinking on behalf of the Honda, like keeping them in the Honda family, like on the level of the Mazda. Remember, we were at the Mazda program, the MX30,
Mhm.
and they were talking about the spirit of Mazda and all those things, and it didn't seem like they really understood how their product would hit the market, or how the market would view their product, and which ended kind of disastrously for the MX30, which they don't sell here anymore. You think this is going to do better than that? Hopefully.
Oh yeah, this is like a really nicely competitive electric SUV thing. Especially the all-wheel drive trims. It's like I think it's the best looking
It's good
Ultium
looking.
car until the ZDX comes out. I think that one's going to be the best looking one. So I think like Honda and Acura design teams nailed it. I think the car is spec'd for the average use case of someone buying this car. You're going to charge it home most of the time anyway. It's got more than enough range. It's got a 48 amp onboard charger. It's got, the safety stuff at minimum, so you don't, hit the car in front of you and all that good stuff. People are going to buy this and they're going to love it. They really are. But I do think the value, if you buy it outright, is about $7,000 to $10,000 too expensive.
Right. And that's just like, so if we go back to the Hyundai Ioniq 5, if you want to compare it with that, those Hyundai dealers and the Hyundai, head office, you can buy, they're taking a lot of money off the hood, putting a lot of money on the hood of these cars. So if you pull them up on a car buying website, you can see brand new Ioniq 5s like in the mid 30s, like all day long. That's a long way from this price tag. Right?
Dodo. Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, that's its biggest problem.
The
is
price.
The price.
Yeah.
It's by far like more expensive than other Honda family people movers, and I mean, I think like this is the specs on this is kind of somewhere around what I was hoping the BZ4X would have been when it came out. Now, of course, it could use a little bit better charging, but I didn't expect Toyota to come out and produce, Ioniq 5 type charging speeds. But I thought they were going to do a little bit better. This will work for a lot of families. This is, I mean, Honda. Somebody made the comment that Kyle doesn't know Honda owners. I'm not saying he does. I'm not saying he doesn't. But I know many Honda owners are just looking for reliable transportation, something that almost just blends in. It doesn't stand out, but it does everything I need it to do relatively inexpensively. With it doesn't break down, it lasts long, and it just kind of all utility is what they need, and this seems like it can do it. I don't think this is the fact that it doesn't charge at 250, 260 kilowatts is going to be a big problem for this. I don't see this as a huge road tripper. I think a lot of families that have it will want to take the occasional road trip, and for that, I wish this charging speeds were a little faster. But I think for a big percentage of owners of this, they're going to be charging it at home, and for that, the DC fast charge speed kind of goes away. But what kills me on this, I like the way it looks. I actually really like the way it looks. I think it's an overall, I haven't driven it yet, but I think it's a really nice package. The price is the killer there. It's about $10,000 too expensive. If this could have been, $8,000 to $10,000 less, I think that Honda would sell a lot of them. The dealers still can't communicate the value of electrification, of electric drive. That in order for this thing to sell, they need to sit the buyer down. The buyer says, well, I like this. I also like, some of your other offerings, but this, the Prologues is $8,000 more than whatever X Honda that I'm going to buy. And dealer needs to say, okay, that's great, but you're just focusing on MSRP. Let's just really quickly show you what a 5-year cost of ownership is going to look like. And then you can make the decision. I don't care if you buy the CRV. I don't care if you buy the Prologue. I want you to leave here today with a vehicle, with my name on the sales slip. But I don't care which one you buy. But just so you know, here's what both of these are going to look like in 5 years. Until dealers can do that, EVs are always going to suffer. And I know, I did a lot of dealership training. I know a lot of salespeople from at various dealers that can do that. They can sit down and in 5 minutes say, okay, I know you were interested in this vehicle and this vehicle. Here's what you're going to look like, your 3 to 5 year running costs. And that makes it more approachable. But when you're just fighting the MSRP battle, the EVs are going to lose. People are going to say, you got to be kidding me. $8,000 more for that? I like it a little bit more, but it's out of my budget when it really would cost them less over 3 to 5 years. So.
And that's where the monthly price, isn't it? It's monthly, as they usually say, Carl, it's the monthly price that needs to be a price parity with the combustion stuff they're buying.
I think the lease these should qualify for the $7,500 tax credit, by the way, as does Tesla's Model Y. So, that price delta is still there. Yep. So, yeah,
Model
Y.
Even baking in that $7,500, Kyle, I think it's still going to be $40 or $50 more per month than some of the competing vehicles that you could walk out of a Honda dealership with.
Sure. Yeah. So then the dealer has to say, are you spending $50 a month in fuel?
That's the thing right there. That's how you do that math and say, look, you're actually going to be saving per month on fueling and maintenance. If you get this, well, really fueling, if it's a new car, there won't be much maintenance. Anyway, sorry to cut you off.
My final thoughts just on the car really quick before we get into this conversation is nice car, really nice car. If it's at the Hertz rental lot, it's the first one I'm taking. Really, really liked it. Yeah. But I think as a value proposition, it's tough, but it's a really nice car.
I just want to interject with this thing because I saw this on the threads yesterday. Gas versus electric, but it's from Ford, but it's not Ford proper. Like at Ford, it's like their ride sharing arm or something. But this is kind of like the marketing kind of thing that we'd like to see dealers and automakers do. Just like a cost comparison over a bit of time, just a simple graph that people can look at and say, oh, okay, maybe a little, turn on some light bulbs or something, Yeah.
Well, that graphic's useless in my opinion. It doesn't talk about how many miles you're driving annually, which is, so much. The way I used to do it at the dealerships, and not to harp on that, was I had two graphs, how many miles the customer drove annually. And also I based it on $3 per gallon and $4 per gallon. I gave them two numbers to say, look, if gas averages $3 per gallon over the next 5 years, you'll pay this. If you average $4 per gallon, which could happen, you're going to pay this. So I gave them two numbers and then compared it to a relatively stable cost of electricity with slight increases. Right. That's the way to do it right.
Right. I think it's just, I assume they use like averaged sort of costs for different things. And there was a source you could go and check that stuff out, I guess. But just for like a quick blast, I don't know. We just don't see any of that from OEMs except for like in this case, part of an OEM. Like, but anyway.
I used to give the dealers it. Like I gave them all the documents that they could just put on their desk and show their customers, and half of them just never even took it out of the drawer. The salespeople, I gave them all the tools they needed, but they just wanted you in and out of the dealership as fast as possible and get their commission. Like I said, I don't care. Dealers will sell anything. They don't hate electric vehicles. They just hate the fact that they're harder to sell, and that's the pain point for them. They want you in and out as fast as possible, move on to the next one, sell the next car. If it takes you 4 hours to convince somebody why they should buy an EV, it's a waste of their time.
It almost needs to be a bigger incentive, a bigger commission. Maybe the OEMs either need to kind of give, or something like working time and a half on a Sunday or something, or, working on a bank holiday so you get a bit more money. They almost need to give more commission to the dealers to sell electric vehicles or incentivize those sales girls and guys somehow, because, as Tom says, it's just more difficult at this stage. We've gone in the adoption curve, we've gone past the people who, I'll paint with broad brushstrokes, probably the people who watch and listen to this podcast, and moving on to the next cohort of people who need to sit down with their trusted Honda dealer. They might have bought 3 or 4 cars from them or leased them and have a long time with the vehicle and, walk around it and spend time with it, have it for a day or a weekend. Will electric fit into your life? And those salespeople just want to hit their target and move on because there's good money to be made in selling cars. And my thoughts on this, I think it is the best looking thing with the Ultium cells inside it. What's interesting is a lot of the motoring press have been talking about the Ultium inside from GM. I don't think the buyer cares less about that. And I don't think it's an issue either because they can't make enough Ultium cells to get their own vehicles on. But Honda keeps saying, we will get 40,000 cars worth this year. That's the contract. That's what GM will deliver. GM can't deliver 10,000 cars worth to themselves. So why are they prioritizing a customer than themselves? Well, there's got to be a contract in place that there must be some pretty steep penalties if they don't, as in these are the fines or whatever. So Honda remain very and they took 70,000 worth in 2025. I think that's interesting. And remember, you are lucky because we get the Honda ENY1, which is awful. It is.
Oh, is it really?
Oh, it's got a 60 kilowatt hour battery. It peaks at 78 kilowatts DC fast charging if you can hit the peak. If all the planets are aligned and you stand on one leg, you might hit that. But you're going to charge around 60 kilowatts. And there's 2 specs on that, either 45,000 or 48,000 pounds sterling.
Wow.
Now, that in dollars, that's what, 55, 58? I don't know.
But that's a Honda designed car, isn't it?
Yes.
So here's what I don't understand. Why not, even if it's crap, why didn't they bring that to the US?
Well, yeah. Because they know it's crap. Because they know no one's going to buy the Honda ENY1. It's just an awful... And that's the frustrating thing, is they let their engineers go wild and make the Honda E, and then they follow it up with the terrible ENY1, which is just... It charges slowly... It's just a terrible car, and then there's nothing ridiculous. It's not terrible because all new cars. Let me make sense of that. All new cars now are spectacular. If you think about the cars that we grew up driving, or a parent's generation, depending on your age, all new cars that you get now, maybe 1 or 2 aren't fantastic, but all new cars are brilliant. So the new Honda ENY1 will do a job for you, but it's a bit like. Yeah, I owned my first 2 Renault Zoes, didn't have DC charging, and it suited us because I can AC charge that, it's fine. But you can't have it as your only vehicle, and so there's nothing redeeming about it. And I remember growing up, and Dad had 2 Accords, and maybe first we had a Civic, then we had 2 Accords, and there was always sort of a buzz around owning. We've owned 3 Hondas. I mean, I'm talking about when I was a teenager and stuff, and you had like the VTEC engines, you had the success in Formula One. There was something interesting and sizzly about this. This engine revs to like a bazillion revs, and it's fantastic. And it was a Honda, and we were so excited to have them. And I grew up, in the back seat, being ferried around in them. So I got a real soft spot for Hondas. But it's so disappointing that they followed up the E with the ENY1, and then they go to GM to get this done. But we know that love affair is over now, and this is the end of it. As Kyle says, it'll be this weird anomaly in car history.
Mm-hmm. One and done.
It's such a shame. By the way, the Ultium thing, I don't think is a problem. I think I also seen some commentary this week of people saying, the Ultium stuff sounds like a real nightmare. And I don't think I have no worries, by the way, that the cells which pass quality assurance that make their way either into GMs or Hondas are absolutely rock solid. I don't think they can make enough of them of the highest quality, but I think the ones they pass are very good. We just know they can't make enough of them this year or next year.
So John Volker, our friend John Volker, had an article in Inside EVs yesterday, kind of addressing some of that. So he's been talking to a lot of GM people inside, and he's saying the Ultium factory is actually doing really good. The cell manufacturer is fine; they're up to speed. They're producing as many as they can handle right now. It's been the machine that stuffs those cells into modules. And actually, in this article, they go into a lot of detail exactly what the issue with they've been talking about the modules having problems for a while, but in this article, you can really get into the nitty gritty of what the issue is there, and it seems to be sorted out. And they have a lot of confidence that they're going to be able to supply 40,000 vehicles to Honda and then hit their own numbers as well. They have like pretty big goals for this year, but they only really kick in like halfway through it, I think.
But that would be my. I know that you're being very kind to GM there.
Yeah. And
that's my argument against where they've really screwed up is that they might say, oh, we can make enough of the cells. We just can't get the equipment to, whatever you just described, stuff them or pack them or make them into modules.
Into modules, yeah.
Or whatever. But that is part of making the cells if you're going to be the big boy and do it yourselves. Right. And that was the difference. They might, we've got the partnerships and all that kind of stuff, but we're going to do it ourselves. We are GM, we do it ourselves. And that was, I'm sure, for lots of good business reasons, either costs or heritage, and they, they're a proud engineering company, all those reasons. But they might say, well, we're making them, we just can't, finish them. Well, that's no good to anyone. So congratulations on having a big storage, sticking them all in the cupboard under the stairs until you get that equipment. That's all part of it. And you need to get all those things lined up. And I'm not pretending it's easy, but that's where the Chinese have got it sorted. And if you look back at when, Tesla bought Grohmann years ago. Never talk about that company. They never talk about the German company they bought to enable them to make the machines that make the machines.
Right.
They never hid it, but they never talked about their, what was it, like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago when they bought that company. And that, Grohmann used to work with all of the big German, or many of the big German car makers on manufacturing equipment. Tesla bought them, canceled the contracts. You make stuff for us now because we own you. And they sorted out all the, the labor stuff. And that's been very, very successful. And other companies have gone to China and gone, we can't do it. So can you sell us the equipment to do that? So I know you're being kind to GM, but if you can't finish the process, you can't do any of it.
Sure.
You can make lots of cells. So I don't know.
Yeah, right. And as Idrew mentions, GM seems to have more ultimate success in China than US because they didn't have this problem with
cells,
manufacture. They use different cells.
It's the same branding, but it's different chemistry, different cells.
And I'm not exactly sure how they work the modules because they did do some. I think they did use some pouch cells. So I'm not sure why their module stuffing machines worked in China and not here, but whatever. It seems to be sorted now. I guess we'll have to see.
I don't know if it's sorted yet.
I don't think
John,
it is.
You mentioned John's article. I put a link in it in the comment section here. After the podcast, check it out, guys. It's a really good article. John spent over a month researching that because he reached out to me on a couple of occasions while he was writing it. And we talked about some of the things. That's one good thing about John. He doesn't just sit down and write an article. He researches. He calls people. He sends emails. This is like a 3,000 word, diary on what happened with GM with the cells and their manufacturing problems and why they had these lofty goals of having. Was it 300 or 400,000 EVs on the road by the end of 2023? And there's a couple thousand Ultiums around the road. That's it. So check that article out. It's a really good article. John put a lot of work into it and he's a pro. So, we recommend it here for sure.
All right. So let's move on. Kyle, your Out of Specs review channel also had a really great review. Reviews channel had a great video from Jordan doing a 70-mile-an-hour range test in the Tesla Model X Plaid. I just wanted to mention that because it's a pretty fun video and people might be interested in checking that out. I don't know if there's anything you want to say about it.
Yeah, it didn't do as well as we thought it would, actually. But then I did it in the 10% challenge and it crushed it. It was great. So that video will go up later today.
Okay. So if you're interested in Tesla Model X performance, what it can do, apparently on the 20-inch 20-inch wheels in your test, it did 286 miles or something, which is, the EPA is 326, so it's not so far away from that at 70 miles an hour.
Yeah, I feel like the long range Model X in similar conditions did another 15 or 20 miles above it. I didn't think there was going to be that big of a difference to the Plaid because there's only a couple mile EPA difference.
Right.
But again, different days, different conditions. I don't know. This was actually a fresher car than the long range, so you never know. But Jordan ran it well below zero, used up all the pack, did it properly, and it was all good.
I haven't had a chance to actually watch the whole video, but I saw some comments, and I think Jordan probably crushed this one, so I really kind of need to watch it and take notes.
Yeah, I haven't seen it the whole thing either, so not sure.
All right.
But sounds good.
So other neat things happening out of spec this week. You put up an unboxing video, and the thing you unboxed was this massive DC fast charger from XCharge that has over 200 kilowatt hours of battery storage. I think I have that right. So that sounds like a pretty awesome charger. So how much power does that thing put out, and have any cool features? What do you plan on doing with that?
So this is the XCharge Net Zero series. It is a 233 kilowatt hour gross, 207 kilowatt hour usable battery integrated DC fast charger, essentially. It's a totally different concept to the Autel 240 kilowatt that we already have, and some other ones that are coming that just, hook up to the grid and take shore power and jam the cars. This uses the battery in many different ways, and it also actually supports. It's the first vehicle to grid charger that we're installing, so we can actually do bi-directional stuff, which will be kind of cool. So the Net Zero series is we have roughly 200 kilowatt output to a vehicle, and it only takes about 30 or 40 kilowatts from the grid. And it's actually totally expandable. We already have, so we're installing this in the front of our office at CSU Powerhouse, and we have a 1-inch conduit running out there. So we can only go to the maximum fill of that conduit without tearing up the parking lot. We have a secondary conduit that feeds our level 2 EVSE, our charging station out in front of the building, but I don't want to just have DC only. So we could set this to do like another 15 or 20 kilowatt peak power, but I don't think we need to do that. I think we're just going to go I think roughly a 30 kilowatt connection. It's 480 that we're running out there. Plug it into the battery pack. It can charge up the battery whenever it needs to. When a car plugs in, I think everyone knows the idea. It's going to take the grid power plus the battery power, or just the battery power if it's a time we don't want the charger taking anything, and it will charge the vehicle. It has 200 amp cables, but I learned we can boost those to 400 amps, and it just relies on temperature sensors to derate if things get hot. So that's good. So 400 amp charging, that's acceptable. Matches our Autel unit 400 amp cables over there. So very excited about this one. We're going to be able to backfeed the building to reduce our demand charges when I'm running the other DC charger. So I'm going to have it set to when the Autel plugs in and comes above 100 kilowatts, start sending the battery from this one into the building so I don't hit demand charges as much.
Nice.
And it's going to require some software and integration. We'll have all the screens, and we have a couple other DC chargers in the works that are coming very soon. So power, we're going big on the install. Should happen hopefully over the next month. Next month's going to be crazy with travel. So I have to be there when everyone installs it because I want to film the process. So I might be holding it up again just because there's so many things going on in March, but we'll see. We're going to try and get this installed. The XCharge is easy. We already have the existing conduit. We just need to run the cables, plug the damn thing in, drill it into the ground, and we're done.
You make it sound like you could do it. Who on earth do you make the call to even begin talking about installing these things? Because it's not everyone's trained to do this, or are they?
No, not really. And it's also, you need someone who can not only just install it, but then commission it and set it up properly and understand the intricacies of all of this. And so we've settled down to 3 companies in our bidding process. And my criteria is different than a normal DC charger. Of course, cost is a factor, but I'm looking for the highest amount of educational content with a partner. So the first is Win Marion. They're a DC charger, actually an oil and gas company that's now getting into EV charging. They're actually based here in Colorado, not too far away. and they're sort of our local, EV infrastructure installers. They just did a huge project in Aspen doing all of their electric bus chargers and everything. So that's one. The second is Owl Services. Owl does a lot of EV Go's. They did most of the Pilot Flying J EV Go installation sites and a few others. And, they do, I think, some Tesla superchargers, some other things as well. And then the last one is Q-Merit, which is Tom's main sponsor at State of Charge. And Q-Merit wouldn't be the ones doing the install, but they would contract someone to help us through that process as well. So those are the three we've gone to, and we're just waiting on the final bids back from all three.
Tom, how jealous are you of one of these not being in your driveway?
I think I've told you guys a story where I tried to get a DC fast charger at my house, but the utility wanted to charge me $28,000 to bring the power to my house. I had a company to give me a DC fast charger, and the utility was like, "Yeah, you're not even a good customer of ours." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "You have solar. You don't buy much of our electricity. If you were a good customer and you purchased a lot, we could absorb the cost and then maybe do like a monthly payment and pay it out." But they're like, "You pay us like $20 a month. We're gonna do a $30,000 install for you for free? Hell no!" So I couldn't get it. But yeah, no, that's really cool. But I mean, the fact that Kyle has it, I can just go out there anytime I want and play with it. Like, he can come here. So, it's the next best thing. It's getting done. I can play around with it, and I don't have to pay for it or even deal with it. It's all getting done with Kyle's expense.
But if you got one like this XCharge one with the onboard batteries, you wouldn't need the big extra power, right?
So I kind of would.
Okay.
Well, it depends on how much you wanted to use it, and it depends how it was set up. I have single phase electric here at my house. I don't know Kyle, what's your setup there? Is it 277 volt or is it
we got 480 and 208. So we have 208, 277 and 408 in the building.
Yeah. So I mean,
lots of power.
Yes, it could be done here, Dom, but it would require probably a step up transformer. Additionally, anything can be done if you want to spend money on it, but it's just not, it's not worth it for my house. I mean, that's a little ridiculous. Kyle's got the perfect setup where it's his office, but he's also kind of in a public space there where, in addition to him, I don't know what his policy is going to be, letting other people use it or whatever, but it's going to get use. It's not just going to be when Kyle comes and use it. If it was at my house, I'm not letting people drive up my driveway and DC fast charge,
Tom's new public charging location. Meredith would love that.
Amazing.
It's sketchy enough going to like a, back of a Walmart at midnight. Can you imagine waking up and there's someone, having a cigarette in my driveway while they're charging, eating and throwing their shit all on my driveway,
Matt, it's about a month. Sorry, but since I asked have you had any more thoughts on the business model for if you let somebody use this, what you would charge, how you would cover costs? I'm sure lots of people watching this right now would love to come. They didn't even go out of their way to go and use the out-of-spec charger. They might bump into one of the gang that they've seen on the YouTube videos. But but how do you even begin to? Have you had any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, okay. So it's important to remember our initial motivation for wanting to install DC charging, and it is all research. It is, we want to take on the burden of owning, installing, and running this equipment, maintaining it, so that our viewers can learn what we have to go through, because a lot of people don't have 480 at their home. And you can, of course, get it with transformers. Anything's possible. I know people who have a DC charger at their house. He owns a Rolls-Royce Spectre. He's like, I need a DC charger for the 100 miles I drive a year. And so I'm like, what? This guy's crazy. But, people are wild. So anything's possible, first of all. The next thing is the school's parking lot. So we're at the CSU Powerhouse, which is like the innovation lab for Northern Colorado. A lot of crazy, I start seeing steam come out of the labs around us. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But during the hours that the building is rocking, there's no room to put any cars in that parking lot. So that leaves like after hours and weekends, which I want it to be open to whoever wants to use it. And, this net zero charger that we're putting up front, that's going to be the DC charger that is going to be semi-public or pretty public. And I think we're just going to keep it free for the first while. And if it doesn't cost us much, we'll just keep it free and just let everyone charge. We might keep it free, but then impose an idle fee, because an issue we have with the level 2s is we're so close to downtown that some people like arrive there in the morning, plug in their car, and then we see them walk away with a backpack, and we're like, but everyone else in the building needs to charge too. And so we have a 3-hour maximum parking limit for our level 2, but no one respects that. So I think we might say, we'll play around with it, but at least initially, I'm just going to keep it free. Let's see what happens, monitor, see how everyone uses it, report on that, and then see if a pricing model changes the behavior of people. So we'll be able to have, a month of data one way, a month of data with a certain pricing. And our goal is not to make any money. It's just to encourage as many people to charge their cars as possible on there. So, yeah.
Gary Clark with the jokes. I would stop by regularly just to recover my acai costs from the last 3 years.
Yep, Gary's a longtime viewer and a great guy. And yes, so the thing is, if you're a viewer and I'm there, because I'm not there very often, I'm always traveling. But if I'm there, I want everyone to experience whatever we can show, all the chargers. If a colleague is there, they'll bring you around back, plug into the big boy chargers that we're installing back there that I haven't mentioned yet. And so we'll get there. But in about 2 years, all of this will be solved, because we're CSU is building a new building next door, and who knows what'll happen in 2 years. But I want to build like a giant island, essentially, that we put chargers all around that we can all plug in and play around with, and that should be public.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome. So, are there a lot of people at CSU that use that have electric EVs right now that could use it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, a lot of Leafs. Like, it's a college. So like the Leaf is the official, professor car, which would be like an old first gen Leaf that's dying, like falling apart. Like all the Leafs have like duct tape all over them in the parking lot. They're all just, trashed, but I own one too. So I guess it adds up. The problem is we'll have the level 2 for them to charge. Of course, we won't have CHAdeMO on this charger, but I do have the CCS to CHAdeMO adapter coming. So if there's a way that I can permanently link it to the charger, we'll allow people to use that. Ultimately, it's like for the school, for staff and students, this is an experimental charger. Everyone's there to research and do things. We're all in. We're all super savvy. From a public use case, we just don't really want people there like during school hours clogging up the parking lot. So I'm not going to brand it as a public charger or anything, but for our viewers, come on by.
Right. Max Patton with Leaf is the new Volvo 240, right? The professor's car.
Yep.
Or actually, he says Saab. Okay. Either of those are good answers, I think. Yeah. All right. Tom, last week we talked about you going to Texas to analyze a Tesla Model Y owner's charging meltdown kind of situation. But now that video is up and you have a whole write-up on Inside EVs, maybe, I don't know if you want to give us like a really condensed version of that situation and tell us whether you've decided for sure whether or not you want to do more of these cases. And if so, like how do people get in touch with you, or should they get in touch with you yet, or all that stuff?
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So first up, I want to say Manuel asked in the comment section if I'm going to the Rivian R2 event. I'm not. I was invited, but I really talked to Rivian, and it doesn't seem like I'm going to get much alone time with the vehicle. I said, I just need you to carve out 20 minutes where no one will be around it so I could shoot a video and whatever. And they're like, yeah, we don't know if we're going to be able to do that. There's going to be a lot of people and so forth and so on. So I basically said, okay, then I'm not going. So no, I'm not going to the event. You won't be able to really do much there. It's like a reveal event. I think Kyle's going, or someone from Out of Spec. So if he gets some good info or good video on it, maybe he'll share it with me, and I'll make a video of me talking over his content. But in any event, no. So all right, getting back to this. So Dom, yeah. It actually that video really worked out well. I think I'm at like 45,000 views, which is pretty good so far. Overall, the comments were incredibly positive and saying you've got to do more of these. I mean, probably 200 people said, Tom, please do more of these. So yeah, I'm going to do more of them. I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to do it, how frequently I'm going to do it. But maybe the goal is one a month. As far as I haven't worked out exactly where people can show me their issues. There's no shortage of issues though, because I see them. Just if I go to like Facebook groups, people post them themselves. They're like, look at what happened in my house. What should I do? You know what I mean? I could just message those people and say, don't do anything. I'll be there in 2 days. You know what I mean? And it won't cost you anything. So that's one way. But I'll probably set up an email address And we'll talk about it here on the show, and I'll post it on my other social channels. That look, if you come across a serious problem, send me some pictures, and maybe I'll come to your house. I want to do different things, though. That's the thing. Like, I don't want to keep doing the same issue, so I have to find different weird issues that have happened because of Chevy construction and inferior equipment. So yeah, I'm going to pick this up and do more series of it. It worked out really well. Ryan's super happy that we did everything, and he's charging his Model Y, and everything worked good with that. So as you saw, if for those that watched the video, there were multiple problems. There was like 3 or 4 different points in the house where things were done incorrectly, and they all failed at one point or another. Like Ryan had people to his house 3 different times, electricians, before we came and just fixed everything. And the electricians just kind of put Band-Aids on it. They were like, just kind of like, I mean, I'm guessing they're like, yeah, that's not my work. I really don't like that, but he called me to fix this, so I'm just going to fix this here. And then that held for a little while, then that broke, and we just kind of ripped everything out and put everything in properly, and he should have no problems, hopefully. So yeah, we'll continue that series. As far as what I'm working on now, I just posted an unusual video for my channel.
Right.
But it was great. I loved it. It was, I can't remember if I was watching it this morning or last night, but I either went to sleep watching it or woke up watching it, and I couldn't stop. It was amazing.
So I reviewed an electric snowblower.
It's 28. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's a
I was just going to say a 28-inch Ego 2-stage monster snowblower, and you have like a great getup too. I've never seen you wear that.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't fool around. I'm not going out there and getting soaked and frozen and everything. I've got like full on like Gorman's fisherman rain gear when I do. There you go. When I do my when I work outside, guys, I'm prepared. I got the waterproof boots. You see at the bottom, it's really wrapped tightly around the boot, so no slush or anything is getting underneath my.
Can someone make a cutout of Tom holding the snowblower here? This thing, because I want to sell it as a sticker in our new merch store.
Well, I have like 6 versions of it, Kyle. I'll send you them all, and you just pick the one you want.
Yeah, we're selling a Tom with a snowblower on our merch site. That's launching soon.
All right, that's a great idea, actually.
So yeah,
I got to say, there's something of the almost Mankini Borat, sort of that onesie piece that you got.
I noticed that too, and I was hoping nobody picked up on that, but I guess
that you've got going on there. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Well, hey, if someone's willing to pay the right amount, I could wear that blue onesie if
State of Charge OnlyFans. Here we go.
I love it.
That's a great looking bolt behind you, though. I like that color. That's awesome.
So yeah, I had the Ego 24-inch snowblower, which was previously Ego makes like 10 different snow throwing things. And last year I bought the 24-inch, which was a smaller one, 2-stage, really good snowblower. And it had the 7.5 amp hour batteries, which were the best at the time when that first came out. And I couldn't finish my driveway doing it. This year they came out with the bigger snowblower, the 28-inch. It's got a whole bunch of other options too. Really good, powerful snowblower with new batteries that are 12 amp hour. So I was like, okay, I think these will actually do my whole driveway. I won't have to stop halfway, recharge them, and finish it. So I got this new snowblower. A good friend of mine bought my 28-inch one, for my 24-inch snowblower for me because he always wanted it. He's like, if you ever get rid of that, let me know. I sold it to him for a really good price, but he didn't need the batteries because Ego's ecosystem of components, of all their tools, use the same interchangeable batteries. They're just all different variations of how powerful they are. And he already had Ego like lawn mowers with he's like, I don't need your batteries, just sell me the snowblower. So now I have my old batteries, that's them charging, and the new batteries. So I said, I want to see if I could do this driveway. I've got a huge driveway. It's like 6,300 square feet. It's 320 feet long. It opens up to a big circle. It's out my driveway. So I wanted to see if I could do it with the new snowblower and the new batteries. We got a snowfall about 8 inches, but it was heavy, wet snow. And I got about 93% done before the batteries died. So I couldn't do the whole driveway. Right. But then as I'm editing the video, like 3 or 4 days later, we got another snowstorm. It was 3 inches of like light powder. So I quickly put on the Gordon's fisherman outfit again, went outside. I did the whole driveway. This time it did everything. And when I opened up the battery box to see how much there was, it was still like 50% charged. So,
nice.
It was the fact that this was heavy, wet snow that you see me blowing there that really used a lot more energy. So my answer is yes, this snowblower can do my whole driveway without having to stop and recharge it. But now I have the second battery cell, so I just swap them. I don't have to recharge them. But it depends on how deep and how heavy the snow is. So I'm all set. I love it. Works great. The only thing that I'm disappointed is it's got these cheap, flimsy plastic handles. And there's an opening down the center of the handles because it has heated grips. So they, instead of making solid plastic handles, they open the middle so you'd get more heat through the grips. And that made them super weak. And I broke it already on the second time I used it. So I wish I was good at 3D printing. I would 3D print like new handles that are thicker and solid because I don't really, I didn't use the heated handle thing. I don't need that.
Right.
Anyway. There
That's
it is,
pretty
and that's
cool,
right
though.
when I ran out right there. That's how far I got. Only that little part at the top of the driveway I
So
couldn't do. I did
close.
everything else. That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
So close.
I was so close.
I mean, but that's a ton of heavy snow, and so I think it's done pretty well. What's the battery capacity on that?
I don't, honestly, they don't even tell you what the full capacity is. I'm sure I could look it up in the specs. It's 56 volt, and they talk about the cells, the amp hour of the cells, kind of like how BMW used to talk about their batteries. Remember, they have 2.5 amp hour, 5 amp hour, 7, 10, and now 12. And I'm sure next year they'll have 15 or 18.
So that's 672 watt hours per cell.
Yeah, 56. So
you have
56
basically,
volts?
that would just be the nominal. So, well, I think each one is a cell. So I think you're roughly a kilowatt hour and a half, 1.5 kilowatt hours total, because you're using two cells.
I saw the cutaway of the batteries. They use, it looks like 2170s.
Right, sure. But each 2170 wouldn't be 12 amp hours. Right. So I think they're saying
the total of the pack would be okay.
It's the pack.
It would just be a guess, but 1.4, 1.5 kilowatt hours. I'm not sure what would be usable, but that actually seems like a pretty efficient use of a kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
Well,
to do like your whole
batteries.
driveway.
You need two batteries.
Yeah, well, they're 600 watt hours each.
Yeah. Oh, you knew there was two. I didn't know you did the math already with the two.
Yeah.
He's quick. He's quick, that Kyle.
I watched the video. I love the video. I really love the video. I was like, this guy needs to review like everything.
Amazing. Right. So what would be the alternative, Tom? We're not doing this electric. We don't get weather typically, apart from maybe in Scotland, like this. So what would it be like a petrol thing, or what would you normally use?
Yeah, so for years when I had my Toyota Tacomas, I had a plow. I would plow my driveway. And I did have a snowblower for a while too that I used to use sometimes to just clean things up. But I decided, I don't know, 6 years ago, whatever, to just get all the gas off the property. And I had everything. I mean, I had backpack, leaf blowers, trimmers, chainsaws, everything. I gave it all to my friends. And now the great thing about Ego, like I said, was now I'm searching for the right blower and chainsaw, and I have the batteries. The battery is the most expensive part of it. So that sounds about right. So, but now that I have the batteries, I can buy the tools for like half price. Like if you buy the 20-inch Ego chainsaw, it's like $600. But if you get it without the batteries, it's like $299 or something. It's like half price. So now I can buy all the Ego ecosystem of stuff, because I need a chainsaw here. I have like over 100 trees on my property, and now I just bought the property next door, and there's another 100 trees over there. So I'm always going to be trimming stuff, and the blower I'm going to get. So I don't know if I'll do reviews on them. Maybe the chainsaw I might do a review on, but
I'd be curious about the chainsaw review personally. I have an electric one, but it's got a cord, so I can only go so far. I can't go to the edges of my property and use it, which sucks.
When Hurricane Sandy hit, whatever years ago, 2012, there's so many trees fell down here. You couldn't get out of my block to like the main roads. So I took my chainsaw. I had a gas chainsaw, and I started cutting because the trees were completely across the street. So I started cutting them like just here and here, just wide enough to fit a car through, because the wood was so heavy I couldn't pull it off the road if I cut a big section. And then one of my neighbors joined me, so the two of us just kept cutting the trees all the way out till we could get to the main road, and we got ourselves out. So I always want to have a chainsaw here just in case, because there's so many trees here, you never know what you're going to need it for. And now, I mean, the problem with that is I didn't use it frequently. So if you let a power tool that's a gas powered just sit in your garage for 2 years, it usually doesn't start, unless you really, drain the gas, lubricate, take the plug out, lubricate it, really take care of it. But you forget to do that sometimes. And that's what's great about these electric. All you have to worry about is the battery, is keeping them at the right state of charge, keeping them not too hot. Don't store them in the attic of your garage where it gets 150 degrees in the summer. Keep them in a cool place, keep them at like 50% charge. And these batteries, the Ego batteries, they have, if you charge them to 100%, you would think, oh God, a lot of people are going to charge them and then they'll sit all winter. And I didn't know this, but I learned if you charge them to 100%, after like a month or so, they self-deplete to 50%.
Nice.
Good
So
shot.
that they'll hold themselves at like 50% for a long time. So they won't be holding at 100%. You won't be ruining the cells. So it's pretty good. They make good stuff. I'm psyched about this because now I know this can handle my driveway without a problem.
Well, Joe O'Connor over on Twitter says, Tom would like to see the equipment reviews, and I'm sure others would too. And yep, so speaking for the whole world.
Absolutely.
We'll see when I get a chainsaw over the summer.
Someone in the comments says stick a snowplow on the Rivian. That would look cool. That would look very.
Yeah,
that would look cool. In fact, let me ask ChatGPT to make that image for me.
Oh no! All right. So while you're doing that, let's
Martin
yesterday,
is actually ChatGPT. That's why he's so good.
right?
Oh, and Don, before you jump on, you're talking
Sure.
to me about what I'm up to. And what I'm doing right now is actually a review of this new charger you see behind me. So, yeah. It's called the EVQ. It's a new brand. But I'm pleasantly surprised. So the video is almost done. It'll be up on my channel in a few days. It's a good option, and it's going to go on my recommended list. So keep an eye out for that review within probably over the weekend. I'll have it up.
Apparently, ChatGPT doesn't know we're supposed to push snow forward, not just
go
slice
sideways.
through it.
That's the
That
worst
Rivian's got
snowplow.
He's doing the sidewalk, Kyle.
Yeah,
that Rivian's got a blower, and it's also got like the Honda Prologue headlights.
a freaking supercharger sticking out right there. That's awesome.
What's that?
That actually looks great.
That looks very cool.
There's the new R2, by the way. If anyone's curious what it looks like, that's it.
We just unveiled it today.
Yeah.
All right. So big news this week. This just came up. I just noticed it yesterday. But AutoWeek reported that GM has canceled a compact electric pickup truck program, along with a full-size van based on the Bright Drop delivery van, and is instead. I know. It's instead rushing to develop a plug-in hybrid Chevy Silverado and GMC Sierra. Not
Yeah, well, that's
only
a good
that,
idea.
right? That is a good idea. Not only that, but according to the same report, Ford has placed EV versions of the Maverick and Bronco on hold at least until the early 30s. So this is AutoWeek, so it's I think a pretty respected publication. I don't think they're going to put out just rumors. They have some sources telling them this, so I would I make use a grain of salt, obviously, because we don't have official word, but it sounds like this is actually what's happening behind the scenes there. And like you said, yeah, GM, plug-in hybrid pickup truck, great idea. Ram's doing that as well. But I don't know. So my take on this, I don't know why. I don't think it makes sense to just jump into the plug-in electric pickup at the expense of a compact truck that would own that segment for years. Like nobody else has a compact pickup truck coming that we know about. And so if you
Maybe that shows you that no one thinks there's interest in one.
Or maybe there's not enough profit in it. I think there's a fair amount of interest, but is there enough margin? Is there enough profit in it compared to what you might be able to get with a plug-in hybrid full-size truck? I don't know.
I've never understood the benefit of a small pickup truck personally. I like to drive the Maverick around because it's like kind of fun. But in America, we got big roads. We got space. If I drive a Silverado, even with a long bed, an 8-foot bed dually or whatever, at least here, I'm not. I could do everything I do in my smart car with that truck. If you live
Yeah.
in New York City or in an urban environment, yeah, small truck definitely makes sense. But
Right.
I don't know. I do want to see a small, like a Maverick electric or something like that. But what is the size of Ford's T3? Isn't that supposed to be smaller than a F-150?
I think that's full size. Tom,
Is it full size?
you know the T3?
So sorry, I was on mute. So no, they haven't released the size. We assume it's going to be smaller than an F-150, but
Oh, really?
they haven't. Ford's been pretty tight-lipped on officially saying what size it's going to be. But I think a lot of people expected to have a smaller BEV option when this new platform comes out. We'll see. You know, I mean, Toyota sells. I don't know how many Tacomas they sell in the U.S. every year. It's got to be 300,000 or something like that.
Hugely popular.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a market for that, and to
But I wouldn't
Kyle's
say that's
point-
a small truck. I'm thinking Maverick,
Yeah.
which Maverick had a lot of demand because it was priced really well and very efficient.
Yeah, no, I got you, and it used to be small, Kyle. When
Right, yeah, it
I
used to
bought
be,
my
yeah.
first Tacoma in like
Sure.
88 or whatever, or 89, it was a small pickup truck. It just keeps every year it gets an inch bigger. But so do all vehicles. This move, seeming pullback by GM and Ford really is puzzling to me. I mean, it's on one hand it is, on one hand it isn't. I really think that these companies are doing it at their own peril. I think they're being more concerned with quarterly profits and worrying about the pitchforks coming out at the shareholders meetings. Because make no mistake about it, this transition to electrification is going to be extremely painful for all the legacy brands. The amount of investment they need to make. Look at how much money GM spent on Ultium and how difficult it is for them. And Ford putting together a whole team of people to improve their software and come up with a whole in-house software platform. I think that they started understanding that they're going to be pouring so much money into electric vehicles and the connected cars that they're going to have difficulty with their quarterly profits and their stockholders. And I think that's driving this, say, pullback more than anything. What I fear, and I don't, I mean, I like Ford and GM, but I'm not afraid for them in particular. I'm afraid for American manufacturing, because the other manufacturers in the other countries are not going to hold back. China, the Korean brands, they're just going to keep forging forward with good quality, fully electric vehicles. And we're not going to be able to just turn a switch in 2030 or 2032 and say, okay, yeah, now, a lot more people want electric vehicles now. So now let's start doing it. As you could see, GM thought they would just flip a switch and develop this platform, and it'd be wonderful and great. And we're going to have 400,000 of these things on the road in a year and a half. And, they got like 30,000 of them on the road, and if that 20,000 combined on all Ultium vehicles, and Ford struggling with software. So that's my biggest concern, is that this pullback is going to hurt the brand's longevity, and it could be an existential mistake where, by the end of next decade, by the end of the 2030s, Ford and GM could be irrelevant. They could be these tiny little boutique automakers that aren't selling many vehicles. And we'll see. I hope I'm wrong, but that's my biggest read on this.
Right. I don't know. Kyle, does it make sense to you?
I'm good at reviewing cars, not company strategy or anything like that.
Right. But just in you must have what do you think when you...
I think my gut, I don't know. I it's not my world to comment on. This is not where I'm should be used.
Okay. Well, one thing I did think was interesting was that replacing the full-size van with a bright drop delivery derived vehicle, which is kind of bizarre. So the Chevy vans, they're like 50 some years old. They've been it's underneath those bones. They've been around forever. I was reading it last night, like it was 50 some years. I'm not even sure whether that still goes back with the 70s, early 70s. And they really haven't changed since. They haven't been updated since I think 2003. I think that's like 20 years ago. It's kind of crazy.
That was on the
So-
configurator for the GMC Savannah, I think is what it's called, their van.
Right.
And it's literally like a early 2000s van. And they've just I think for model year 24 or 23 recently, they put the LED headlights, still reflector though.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, so I could see them make it, but I don't know why they use the bright drop delivery van for the base of it. I would use like their Silverado base, wouldn't you? I don't know. It's kind of
Yep.
I'm just kind of curious how that all works, or maybe it's miscommunicated, or who knows exactly. Because
I think companies are going to ebb and flow in and out of design decisions. A lot of it is just trying to please the customers, in the real time. I'm sure a lot of what we're hearing from companies may not actually be their long-term strategy. They just, I think this whole EV movement pissed off a lot of people, and they're trying to not lose their, entire customer base right now. And we'll see what the future holds.
Right. So Nebula 1701 adds the Silverado base is the bright drop base. So okay, I have a hard time picturing it in my mind because the bright drop box is so long. So that's obviously an extended frame. Right? You've driven the bright drop; it's like much larger than a pickup truck, right?
I mean, Silverado's massive.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
actually think there's definitely a size difference, but I don't think it's as big as you're thinking.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe I need to see them side by side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me
You
too.
were just
Yeah.
in the Silverado too, right? For
Yeah,
that.
just in Silverado. I've driven both the bright drop and the Silverado.
Right. Cool. So I don't know if there's anything more to say about that, but I thought we should at least talk about it a little bit. I don't know. So this week, the Volkswagen ID.7 Tourer, that's the station wagon version, launched in Europe. It's not, unfortunately, coming here. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on this, though, Martin. As a family man, would you take the Tourer over the sedan?
Yeah, of course, absolutely, I would. I mean, my wife is not a big fan of this format of vehicle. We had a Skoda Octavia VRS before I got into EVs, and she was never really taken with that, And she, her ideal car, if I could wave a magic wand and just have one car on the driveway that she drove all the time, would be the Audi e-tron. Big battery S-Line, because she just absolutely loves that. She likes that feeling of sitting up high, but not wanting to drive, like a full-on Range Rover kind of thing. So she wouldn't have this, but I'd have it in the blink of an eye. It's not the first estate car that we can get. My mum, my stepdad have the MG5, and that's a really practical car. You could call the Taycan Cross Turismo. If you want an estate car, the BMW i5 Touring has now gone on order over here. The Audi A6 Avant e-tron is this year, I think.
Man.
And so, we've got a choice. Now, we do have a choice. I think it's going to be a great choice, by the way. It's rear-wheel drive, not all-wheel drive. It's 600 litres of boot space, which is about, in your language, 20 cubic feet? Or 1,700 litres with the thing folded down in the back. And with the seats folded down in the back, it's about 2 meters of load space. I would have this with a roof box, and of course, VW do an official roof box for this already on the accessories list.
Wow.
Even if it was empty, I'd still have one. Who cares about the drag factor? Because it would look so cool on this.
It's got tons of range anyway, right?
And a couple of mountain bikes on the back with a bike rack, and it would just be like, yeah, that dude is going on holiday for a week with his kids. And so absolutely right. So 2 battery sizes, 200 kilowatt DC fast charging. It's otherwise an ID.7, which is a Passat, isn't it? This is the electric Passat, and that's a very good thing. And so 426 miles of WLTP range on this. So the Tourer, or the Tourer Pro, has the battery that we all know and love, so 82 kilowatt hours gross, 77 net. And then there's the new battery, which is the Pro S version on this, which is 91 kilowatt hours gross and 86 net. So it's a bit of a bump, but it's enough for well over 400 miles WLTP, 28 minutes to get to 80% charge. And on a road trip, because you might say, oh well, look, the EGMP cars that are going to do that in 10 minutes less. But honestly, if I'm on a road trip with the kids, I can't get in and out in 28 minutes, and so it's going to be full. And otherwise, it's an ID7. Big 15-inch touchscreen up front, which is what we want. Big head-up display with augmented reality, so it sort of superimposes real life onto the head-up display, and loads of equipment that are, I think a lot of it's standard, like the massaging seats and all sorts, which is what the buyer of this vehicle is going to expect, because they will do. Some buyers of this will do really decent miles per year. If you're using either as a working vehicle or as a family vehicle, we do a lot of road trips. I think this is perfect. What a perfect car. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, absolutely love this. And if I could, I would have one in the blink of an eye. I think it looks great as well. And they've finally got the infotainment sorted now. And just a ton of room. Oh, and the new, what's it called? AP550 motor on the back of it. So, on the back of it. But I have to stop because I've just seen what's in the comments.
Wow, we got a very generous gift from Ed Peterson. Who says,
Holy moly, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
Is that a mistake?
wow.
Have we got to do a refund on
It must have been $3, but then he accidentally added a couple zeros.
Oh,
Thanks,
crap.
Ed.
Ed, that's insane. It keeps this show on the air. Wow.
Several weeks ago, I asked your opinion on purchasing the Mach-E or the Ioniq 5. Based on your advice and a few test drives, we are now the owners of a 24 Ioniq 5 SEL. That's a nice trim. Thanks for all that you guys do. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. And congratulations on the Ioniq 5 SEL. That's a great trim level for that car. And yeah, there's some confetti going in here.
That's so rubbish. Wow.
The confetti is rubbish.
Not the donation, the confetti. That I don't know why we even loaded it in the system. It's terrible. Wow, Ed, thank you so much, my friend.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was great that you could actually go and test drive them. We try to encourage that as much as possible because, I mean, that's the great part about car shopping. You get to actually get behind the wheel of a bunch of different things. You have an excuse to walk into a dealership and say, hey, I want to drive this Rolls-Royce Spectre. Okay, maybe not that. Whatever, Cadillac Lyric or ID4. Yeah. All right. So let's move on to some other news, I guess. Right. So Rivian just had a tough Q4 2023 earnings report. Earnings came in a little less than estimates. It was like off by 4 cents, but and they had higher revenues. But the market just pounded the stock. It was down over 26 yesterday, 26%, and it's down a little bit this morning even. The company announced that it expects its 2024 production to be equal to last year at 57,000 vehicles. And it's also laid off 10% of its salaried employees. Tom, should we be worried about Rivian? I don't know if you paid a whole lot of attention to this earnings report or anything, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, we should be worried about Rivian. We should be worried about Lucid. These both companies, we were worried about Tesla for a while, and it's hard to launch a car company. It's very difficult. They need to get the R2, which is a lower cost vehicle, to market, just like Rivian needs to get not only the Gravity, but then their midsize in a couple of years, because that's going to be a volume vehicle. And, will Rivian be around in 10 years? I don't know. It's hard to say. It's not a good look that they're laying people off. The vehicles seem to be selling well. I see them all over the place here, but you have to sell a tremendous amount of vehicles to make it work. Tesla had a huge advantage being first to market in a couple of ways. Number one, they made that fantastic strategic decision to install the superchargers and allow their customers access to be able to charge and to travel freely around the country and around the world. But they also didn't have competition then. Like if you wanted a desirable long range electric vehicle, it was Tesla. That was it. But now there's options. So these other startups, Rivians, the Lucids, and so forth, they have a lot of competition. And if Rivian's their R1T's got to compete against a Lightning, it's got to compete against Silverado, it's got to compete against Cybertruck. When Tesla started, that was it. You wanted an electric sedan, you bought a Model S, period. And are they in trouble? I think they're in trouble. I don't know how serious trouble that is. I don't, like Kyle, I don't really dive deep into the companies, their finances, but Just the fact that they're a startup and they're struggling to get more and more vehicles out on the roads and more revenue in that light. Yeah, I think they're, the Rivian story hasn't been told yet. I hope they make it, but I think they've got a challenging, 6 to 10 years in front of them.
Wow. Martin, do you have any thoughts on this at all?
So they have 9 or 10 billion of cash or cash equivalents on hand. I forget what it was because it was earlier in the week that they had the call, and I read that release. But I forget what it is. Forgive me if it's either 2 or 3 years of runway. So the company's not going anywhere at all. Third round of layoffs, I think I'm correct in saying, but all companies do that. Not all companies, but many tech companies in countries where you can just lay off 10% of your staff, because you couldn't do that here, for instance. Then it happens. It's horrible, isn't it? If you're affected by it, it's a horrible thing to have happen to your friends or colleagues. But companies do behave like that. They hire, almost work out what they got wrong, and then trim the roles that they don't need. Anyway, so it's horrible, but there we go. Yeah, so look, Rivian's going to be fine. Rivian will be fine. Lucid will be fine. The Saudi Public Investment Fund is not running out of money anytime soon at Lucid, and Rivian have got loads of money in the bank. So it's going to be fine. As Tom says, the key is, can they develop those products? Because I forget what the revenue was. I don't know, Dom, if you read that earlier in the week as well. But the revenue was in the
1.67 billion.
Billion, right?
Yeah,
so
right,
this company,
right.
It's been around for 15 years or however long Rivian's been around for. They finally found their groove, and they're here.
Right.
Like, that's insane. Can you imagine starting a company and then having that amount of revenue and that amount of happy customers? And so it's just brutal making cars, as we've seen the established OEMs all having to bow down to the CFO. I keep saying this, the boardroom battle. 2-3 years ago, the CTO was winning, and you were getting your own way. You're getting the big investments. The last 12 to 18 months, the CFO is winning and saying, we've got to stop this spending. We've got to pull back, got to have plug-in hybrids. We've got to slow down. And that's the argument that's winning in many boardrooms. Is it in step with China, with government regulations, with combustion bans? Will you be caught with your trousers around your ankles if all of a sudden you've got nothing to offer? Looking at Toyota, Honda, Subaru, they've got time to make those vehicles. And so Rivian are doing the hard yards now that big established companies don't want to do, or just haven't got the appetite to do. And of course, yes, the stock price is down. So yes, there is a bit of a stink this week about it, but I'd ignore all that because they make amazing products, and we're going to see the R2s very soon. And I think they're going to be really good. But the trouble is they're 2 years away from those arriving with customers.
Right. So I think like it really all kind of depends on the R2, and because that's what they're investing a whole bunch of money in, laying out a bunch of capital, building a huge factory in Georgia. They need to make, hundreds of thousands of these things and sell them. So it has to really be a compelling vehicle, I think. And I'm not really worried about Rivian too much. I think they probably have this all nailed down. They have a good team. Obviously, they have they're number one right now in customer loyalty. And the Rivian owner is more likely to buy a Rivian than any other vehicle owner is going to buy that same brand they're in again. So there's a lot of good things going right with Rivian, and the stock price is pretty. So I don't usually do like financial videos at all, and it's not financial advice. But I'm just, what I would do if I bought stocks. I don't buy stocks, but just saying, this looks like a really great buying opportunity to me. But don't listen to me. Don't take my advice. Just do your own thing.
Worth saying that the R2 is going to be a global vehicle. Well, certainly a European vehicle as well.
Right, European, right.
It comes here as well as there. So, and then it's the right thing to do at the right time. I never understood the Fisker thing of we're going to sell this vehicle everywhere all at the same time. And you're like, okay. Right. For Rivian to do it, to build, I think they're doing all the right things. And the products are really, really good.
Rivian already sells in Europe. Their EDV, their delivery van, they already shipping vans over there. So that's a part of that's kind of, a little bit of experience in that already. But so I think with Europe, that's a huge addressable market. So just as long as they get the design and the value, equation is there, the price isn't too high. Right. But I'm pretty sure they'll be fine. But I just want to touch on that a little bit. Lori has a question for us. Lori, longtime viewer, she's about to maybe get a Hyundai Kona EV. So what's your opinions on Kona EV limited trim? Would be second EV in Gamely. I'm not sure. I don't do maybe road trips. Charge at home. Meet RV is 21 Mach E. So I think their current EV is a 21 Mach E. So a Kona EV limited trim. I don't know, Kyle. You've had time in the Kona EV, right?
Yeah,
I'm
and
not sure
Martin's owned them as well. I mean,
it's
a great car. I've driven one across the country basically, and you can't go wrong. I don't see why you would need the limited trim, but if it's not much more money, get the cooled seats, get all the tech. Why not? Seems good. And if you're not doing road trips, that's a reliable, great daily car, nice and nimble, really good option.
Great to park, big enough in the front. A little bit challenged in terms of luggage and room in the back to carry 5 passengers plus their stuff, but very, very good package.
Right. And like we said just before, take it for a test drive just to make sure that, you're going to enjoy your time behind the wheel. But I think it's a pretty good choice. All right. So what else do we have here on the list? Not a whole lot actually left. What's our time? Okay, we're pretty close. Scout Motors broke ground on their $2 billion plant in South Carolina. So that's kind of interesting. And just to remind us that Rivian actually has a competitor coming. So that it's kind of adventure vehicle space. A Scout is going to try to enter that, and it's owned by Volkswagen Group. So it should be kind of interesting to revive an older brand like this. It's got a lot of heritage already, but this is a whole new thing. I don't know how it's going to connect the past with the present. I don't know. Anyone have any thoughts, Martin?
They said that they were both going to be independent and have their own engineering freedom to create the truck and the SUV or the crossover, whatever it is, themselves. But equally, they're going to lean heavily into being part of VW. So procurement, supply chains, engineering knowledge, all of that. So looking like they're doing sort of the Geely model, where Geely have those brands like the Volvos and Polestars and Zeekrs and the London Black Cabs and stuff, and go to the mothership for what you need and be as independent as you need and be a flexible startup. So if they can pull it off, I think that's a really, really good way of going about things, because they've got all that backing, all that experience, the funding, like I say, procurement, etc. Batteries are the big thing. So where do the batteries come from? Is that using VW's PowerCo, or is it somebody else? But hopefully, lots of independence in terms of decision making. So it won't be like, it's just a Volkswagen, but to be proudly a Scout independent thing. Really excited about this. Very excited.
All right. Yeah, it should be. I'm really kind of curious of what they come up with. I can't remember when do we know when the reveal is of what they're doing?
Q3.
Oh, it's not so far away. Okay.
Nope.
So one last little bit of news here on my list, and then we can go. Volvo cars, and we talked about this a little bit on our Battery Bargains episode on Tuesday morning, I think it was. Volvo Cars is streamlining and standardizing its model names for fully electric cars. So if you're looking at electric Volvos, some of the names have changed. So the fully electric XC40 Recharge and the C40 Recharge models are renamed to simply EX40 and EC40, respectively. Now they say seamlessly fitting in with other fully electric models, the EX30, EX90, and EM90. That's the big luxury minivan that we don't get here. The EX40 name remains for the internal combustion variants of the model, but who's interested in that? Not I. Anyway, so yeah. I don't know if we have any commentary on that. I think it's good that they it's a little of a pain in the butt right now for them, I think, but it's good to have your naming, nomenclature kind of sorted like this.
I will say Volvo, along with the Koreans, are some of the companies that aren't backing away from EVs. They're not following the trend of some others, and they're ones saying, look, the 2030 date is in there. We'll carry on using the Recharge name for the combustion XC40, but we'll that's where Recharge, the name Recharge, will be used for the plug-in hybrids and things. But here's our clear vision on EVs, and we're not stepping away from our targets, and we're moving head towards it. And that's, to come back to that point, that's going to be a really interesting, almost two-class system over the second half of this decade. The ones like Hyundais and Kias and Genesis and the Volvos of the world that are, no, this is the way we're going, and we're going to have the cars on sale in the countries where the regulations are banning combustion stuff, and then you're going to have others that are hedging their bets. I'll put it that way.
Right. Max Patton has some Volvo EC40 opinions. He says it's dated and overpriced product, but not a bad car still. I think he has I think he's a Polestar 2 owner, right, Kyle?
Yeah, I went and watched all of Brandon's Polestar stuff and all of Max's Polestar stuff recently when I first got my car.
Oh, right. Right on. All right. Let's see. Anything else this morning? Oh, the Cooper Born VZ is an electric hot hatch with 322 horsepower there in the UK. I don't know if you wanted to say anything about that, Martin. Does that tinkle your ivories?
There you go. We get that,
kind
you
of
don't.
Expression that is.
The most powerful MEB car out there, and it's still something like 5.5 seconds 0 to 60. So I don't know. They can't make these things go quicker in a straight line, but this is cool. This is very cool.
Yeah, it looks great.
So
I love the green and bronze.
Oh, it just looks awesome, doesn't it? So this is the most spicy MEB thing that they will be making.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we don't get that here in the U.S. either. One day.
Oh, I didn't realize this. And also a new battery.
Oh, I was going to click on the same little thing there. Yeah, EVKX says the VZ has 79 kilowatt hours net. That is new for MEB. Usually it's 77, right?
So just a couple boost. That's cool.
All right. Well, I think that I should probably wrap it for the day, I think. So, as we look at pictures of the Cupra VZ, that brings us to the end of our show. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below or get in touch with us on the social media platform of your choice. Don't forget, if you like the show, please give us a thumbs up. Click subscribe, tap that bell icon for notifications. Thank you all very much for joining us, and we'll see you all again real soon.